Okay, back on the bus this morning. I finished taking some stuff apart, and I think we've got everything now. So I have the light here. Get the light on the situation. Here's the driver's side brakes. Looks like somebody went in there and sprayed everything with a black spray bomb. This side isn't leaking. It is wet behind the boot there. I'm not going to pull it back. I'll show you the other side. But it's a little wet behind the boot. The shoes are still fairly dry. Looks like somebody put some shoes on there. And possibly maybe turn the drums. The drums still within spec. It's little on the thin side. It's not going to be able to be turned again. It's at the limit, but it'll be fine for one more brake job. We got the motor out over here, and found the culprit here. One of these Chinese clutches. Doesn't look too old. We'll pull that off in a minute and examine the clutch disc and the flywheel seal. And come around to this side. And here's our bad side. You can see it's pretty wet over here. And that cylinder's leaking pretty good. It's soaked the shoes down pretty well. And same thing on this drum. It's turned to the limit, but I think we'll get away with it one more time. So we'll clean that drum up. We'll replace the shoes, wheel cylinders, and the rear brake line on this, or brake lines. They're original as far as I can tell. They haven't been replaced. So they're start to swell up in the center when they get older, and the brakes don't work as well. Found the air cleaner tube is a two-piece, and they don't have any oil in the air cleaner. We can fix that. I will donate my old tube off my bus since I went to dual carbs, so that's not a problem. And now, what we're doing this morning is pulling the front rotor off on this side so I can determine whether they have drop spindles on this or if they've made a spring adjustment in the front end. So I'll go ahead and leave you guys turned on here and show you how to break these front ends down. So, see how this turns out. Let me get the camera in position on. And this light is super bright, and I got a mega headache today. I had a back shot yesterday, so the anesthesia's sort of kicking my ass today. But anyway, no big deal. Let's get you guys zoomed in there. I think the best we can without, you know, getting my arm in there and all that crazy stuff. And break this down so we can finish this up. I have the, let me grab the air hose real quick, sorry guys. I've got all the stuff coming, all the parts. So we'll have everything here today to finish it. He's wanting to know about raising it back up. And in the back, that's a torsion adjustment. And in the front here, I really don't know what it entails until I pull it apart and see if they put lowered spindles on it or if they've changed something in the torsion leaves. So it's gonna get a little noisy, and yeah, so here we go. Gotta remove the shock. It's usually welded on back there. I have a nut for some reason. We do have a washer. Air hose is going to play havoc with the light. go. We've already removed the clip for the brake line. That'll let the caliper come back away from the, or the brake hose come out of the spindle. Alright. This goes our upper ball joint nut here. I used to have the proper wrench for this, but I can't find it right now. Sounds like that popped. It's good. Hope I'm not getting in your shot too much there, guys. I really apologize. But if you're going to do this, make sure the car is on jack stands, and we'll lighten up the spindle. Let me get the rotor off. There's a little clip right here you need to take off. Try not to lose this because they're hard to find. I say little. It's little. You can probably get those from the parts store now. Here. You grab a 6mm tar. Should have had that down there. I can't remember everything. I'm losing my mind anyway. Anyway, you got a little 6mm set screw here. You want to loosen that up. This is a counter rotation to get the rotor off. You have to replace the rotor on the other side when they put the new caliper on. Apparently it was a metal on metal situation with the brake pad before they changed the rotor out. And it cut the rotor down pretty good on that side. So, see symbol. It doesn't look like they repacked those bearings when they did the brake job, so we'll take care of that. You always want to repack and take care of your seal. Seal looks good. A lot of times you can use seal over, but you want to check it. You're this far into it, and then it's always a good idea to keep the wheel bearing grease fresh if you're going to drive the car. Sometimes this can be difficult to get the nut off. When this happens, what you want to do is take your pickle fork, drive it in there, and it should tighten up the ball enough for you to get the nut off. It should. Sometimes it pops out like that and you got to drive it back in. Seemed like it was working though, so. Now it's being stubbier on. You can see the whole thing turns. Find a good spot to get in here. There we go. Adjustable wrench never works good. threads. Long-winded. Definitely long-winded on this one. I'm just going to take the wrench to the last drop. There we go. So you should have 3 pieces in your hand. When that comes off, you should have the retaining plate for the brake hose, a flat washer, a nut. See the slop in that. Alright, now we're going to remove our brake or our speedo cable out of the spindle. That just pulls out. It's got a plastic sheath on it that can get bound up in there a little bit. And we got our lower nut, and take the rest of the shock off. Pull the arms out, press them up, and they press. All right, lower shock nut, going to be a 19. Should be a nut in the washer. There is. Sometimes that can be hard to get off. Tool for that. Work smart, not hard. There you go. Sleeve off. And you gotta grease this when you put the shock on, or it can be real hard to get off. Alright, now we need to separate the spindle from the ball joint. You can hear the slapping those. Not safe. Alright. Next we're going to remove the sway bar. Let me look at the spindle. See what we got here. That's all if it's lowered or not. Doesn't appear to be welded. So I'm guessing whatever adjustment they made was probably inside the beam. But I'll have to look at this a little closer. I don't see any part numbers on here. It doesn't look like a Volkswagen piece, so it could be an aftermarket spindle. So, alright. So if you want to remove the arm, you're going to need, I think, an 8mm here. Let me see. Allen. To dig all the crud out. Unlikely they use the spindle to lower this because all this is very dirty. And the spindle looks sort of new. So I'll have to figure out some measurements and stuff like that. That is an 8mm Allen up there on the top. It's got a set screw, which is a 19mm. Break the set screw loose. Or nut, sorry. I call them nut screws, and screws nuts, and boots joints, and here's your set screw. Work that control arm out of there. Yeah, so I'll get the other side apart, take some load off of this side, pull the sway bar off, and that'll get the front end apart. And we'll take these over to the parts washer and clean all this stuff up, and paint the arms, and press the new ball joints and stuff in. And yeah, so let's go take a look at this clutch over here. How I'm doing on the time. Or if it's even recording still. 21 minutes. I made longer. That. Alright, let's pull this off together, see what we got. So, a couple people have asked me why I don't like these. And I don't think they're really designed for a Volkswagen. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it fits something else. But you can see here there's not much distance between the clutch disc and the diaphragm here. And a lot of times what happens is this thing gets pressed in and the release bearing hits the clutch disc. And makes for a really choppy operation of the clutch. And that was the complaint. The clutch just doesn't work properly. These are 13s with a wafy washer. Make sure you crisscross while you're either installing or taking it off. You can see this is touching in 1, 2 spots, maybe 3. It's not making full contact with the clutch disc, and that's the problem with these. The diaphragms are so questionable that you know, you can tell this is slipping really bad last time, and nobody surfaced the flywheel. Which is not a really good thing to do if you're looking to make the clutch work like it once did. You need to have a flat surface, and a lot of times what happens is the flywheel surface here becomes not flat, and that's why we're getting all this heat on the pressure plate. Why it's probably grabby. It's only grabbing in a couple spots. I don't like these discs or these pressure plates at all. There's a couple reasons. It's not just one reason. I'm not just trying to be you know, a ball buster. This diaphragm is quite a bit larger than the original Volkswagen. I have recently just cleaned up all my old parts, so I don't have any parts for a demo. When I get the new clutch, we'll compare them though. This diaphragm alone is enough to throw the motor off of balance, because this motor has to be balanced to the pressure plate. So when they remanufactured the pressure plates for the longest time, they were identical to what came off from the factory. Now that the market's been flooded with China parts, this is what we're getting. Not only are they remaking the parts, they're not only copying them anymore, they're designing their own parts. And they weren't very good when they were just copying stuff. And I don't think Hodgie has an engineering degree, so sometimes these parts don't work like they're intended to. So the money you save is really no bargain. When we turn the clutch over to this side, you'll see that this plate is riveted on. It's not even a one-piece construction. When this thing lets loose and blows up, and it happens inside of that magnesium bell housing on your bus, it's going to set the bus on fire, and you're going to sit there and watch your bus burn to the ground. Clutch parts have a lot of strain on them. You know, the average probably passenger car, you're dealing with probably 900 to 1,000 pounds of pressure from this diaphragm onto the disc. In a race car like my drag car, it's 2,600 pounds. The only way you get away from pressure is running dual disc. You can reduce the pedal pressure and get just as much grab. But with a single disc, it's sort of dangerous to lighten the parts up like this and expect them to work. Obviously this clutch is installed in the motor. It appears to be new, and it's definitely not working right. You can tell by the wear pattern on this disc, or the shoe as they call it. So they only have 3 rivets holding that shoe to that plate, and on the old clutches, the plate was the main integrity of the clutch. It was what everything else was fastened to. I'm going to go ahead and pull this flywheel off and have it resurfaced, just because it is not looking really nice. And I want it to work perfect when I put it back together. So that's what we're going to do. That nut was loose too, so somebody put anti-seize on the nut. This is a Loctite situation here. You want to Loctite this. I'll probably replace this gland nut. You can see the damage on the nut, and this nut is fairly soft. It's a cast piece. It's not a very strong nut. It is torqued to 250 foot-pounds. So it looks like somebody chiseled it off to me. I don't know, but we'll get rid of that. I'll throw one of those on, no charge. And the other thing that I wanted to show you guys on this motor was, let me put the flywheel back on. I forgot about this. I know this video is going to be forever and a month. Oh. Okay, if you've watched enough of my videos, some of you guys understand what end play is and what it means. End play is the measurement that you have. It's the amount of movement that the crank has on the thrust bearing. On an American car, the thrust bearing is in the center of the block, and on a Volkswagen it is at the back of the block. You can adjust the thrust with shims, and usually the thrust is set anywhere from 4 to 9, depending on the builder. Some guys go down to as far as 2. It requires notching the rear bearing. Of course, the tighter you can keep the crank assembly in the block from moving back and forth, the more power it'll make, because the rods are centered in the cylinder and the motor is not trying to push itself out of the back of the case. I did notice when I went to pull this out, get this gauge is really crappy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to even get a representation of it, because it's all fogged up. But we'll just say this is 0. Put it right here on 0. This has about 0, 10, 20, 30, 35 thousandths in play. That means either they forgot the shims back here or the bearings loose in the back of the case. So I just wanted to point that out. You can run this motor for quite a while. Eventually it'll develop oil leaks and start coming to its demise. So that's the way we monitor the condition of a Volkswagen motor. A lot of times is the rear bearing determines the life of the case. This is why we do thrust cuts and line bores to correct this issue. Big no-no right here. You don't ever use the paper gasket. This is a novice Volkswagen builder here that built this motor. This paper, when you open the gasket get up, you get rid of it like that, just like the paper that people like to put under the jugs. As soon as that paper gets compromised, you have end play and the flywheel's loose. And we have both here. We have a seal that appears not to be leaking. A little bit of oil on the cam plug. We can seal that up, and that's more than likely coming from the case halves. So, don't know what we have for shims in there. I could pull the seal out and try to shim the flywheel. I'm going to go ahead and take a look. See. I'll put a seal in. I'd like to know if I can save the if it's the bearing or if it's the actual end play that was set improper. One more in here. So it has the shims back here. This was probably somebody painted this motor silver. I don't know if they rebuilt it or just cleaned it up. Can't really feel the bearing moving. You know, we'll probably just try to do a shim change and tighten that up, tighten our end play up, get rid of that paper gasket, and throw a flywheel seal in there and see where we're at. So these are definitely 3 shims in there. That's an awful lot of end play for sure. Or oil leaks definitely at the cam plug there too. I don't know if you can see that. It's dry up here and it's wet in there. So we'll take care of that. Little silicone magic. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. If you guys watched it to the end and made it to the end, thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for interacting with the videos. Thank you, of course, for subscribing to the channel. Helps grow it. We're going to do the subscriber giveaway probably today or tomorrow. Andrea's writing all the names down. We had about 120 entries. So we're going to try to get more than one prize, of course, and go from there. Let me show you the business in here. I have to still take the cover off up here and inspect the sending unit for the gas tank. It's not functioning. Here's our bell housing. Got a little bit of oil in there, not much. And like I said, they replaced this release bearing, the clutch disc, and the clutch not too long ago. You can see the main shaft seal is leaking on the tranny there. We'll pop one of those in for you and go from there and see where we're at. As far as the raising the bus up in the back, all that requires is you have to disassemble all the suspension components and redegree the spring plates. That's the rear torsion. And we probably won't do that right now. We'll probably do that at a later date. And I got to figure out what's going on with the spindles in the front. if I can raise it back up in the front, that's something I want to do while I have everything apart, and then I can come back here and just do the torsion adjustment. So that's where we're at. Here's the better look at the fuel line going through the metal. We don't want to do that. We'll put a grommet in there, and then we'll put a clamp on this. This can cause a lot of problems when this comes out and you're on the road. You can ask Chip. We had that problem on my bus when we went to South Carolina. That baby comes out and you don't have any throttle. So there we go. That's what we're looking at. This is a dual port motor. I think this is probably, you know, definitely we determined it's a car motor. The biggest problem that I see with this motor in a bus is the oil cooler, or lack of it. We have a car oil cooler, or an early model oil cooler, inside the fan housing. I like in a bus to run the later stuff, the doghouse that's outside of the fan. Also has a larger fan for more CFM over the motor as far as airflow. The other issue that is only causing a power problem is this is a replacement carburetor, and they didn't replace it with the proper carburetor. They use a smaller carburetor that requires a adapter plate, and smashing my fingers here. The adapter plate basically works as a restrictor plate. The carburetor is quite a bit smaller, so it's a 32 millimeter instead of a 36, or 30 instead of a 32, excuse me. But we'll clean it up, we'll tune her up, we'll adjust the valves, and we'll see how she runs, and smooth out that clutch. That was definitely an issue. And then address the brakes and stuff and ball joints. And it should be mechanically sound anyway. I have to remove this clamp and install this properly. It doesn't go on like that. And that's why they have to have that long bolt there. So we'll take care of that. And yeah, just a bunch of little stuff, nothing too major. So there we go. Sorry for the video, really long, and I hope that's not an hour and 15 minutes, but it could be.